AI can feel like this massive, overwhelming concept, especially for franchise owners who are already juggling operations, hiring, and customer experience. But the truth is, AI isn't just for tech companies. Welcome to The Training Effect, the podcast where we explore how learning systems and innovation drive business success. I'm your host, Doug Mark, and today's guest is a big-time AI brain, Nick Pope. Nick and I actually grew up in the same town, but we ironically just met a couple of years ago, and since then I've been absolutely blown away with his insights on AI. He's an AI educator, led strategic partnerships at the Rundown AI, a certified franchise executive. Congrats, Nick. We just graduated as well. And he's currently the chief AI officer at Stay in Your Lane, and really is an all-around expert in how AI is shaping the business landscape. Today, we're going to cut through the noise and get into the practical. So what do franchises actually need to do to focus on when it comes to AI? What's the sort of simple 1, 2, 3, 4 step version of thinking about it? So let's get into it. Nick Pope, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Doug. Happy to be here.
Yeah, no, happy to have you on. Nick and I actually grew up in the same town, Concord, New Hampshire, the Granite State, live free or die. But Nick, for those who don't know you yet, can you give us a little bit of your backstory? How did you go from my hometown buddy to becoming an AI leader?
It started, I believe, 7/18 in the morning in August. I was born. No, I won't go right there. I would say ultimately from New Hampshire, went to Syracuse University for a little while, ended up changing majors out of chemical engineering into education. I was going into a 5-year master's program at UNH. Figured out that teaching doesn't pay that much money. So ended up switching over to a marketing role while I started working. And ultimately I found my way into sales. I worked with Best Buy, AT&T for when the iPhone came out, Bank of America for a hot second. Then I worked at Comcast for about 12 years. Lots of sales, lots of team leadership, coaching, training, development, content creation. And then that's when I made the step into the franchising space. So Dan Tanner, who was a great friend of mine, works at Northeast Color. They do fantastic signage for the franchise industry. He brought me over there with him. And that was really my first taste of a smaller type of business, second generation family owned. And that's what got me into the world of franchising. They encouraged me to go get my CFE. And then I found my way into this AI space that Christmas to New Year's, 22 into 23. I fell down the rabbit hole and I just really haven't looked back since. Anyone I could talk about it with, anyone that was excited about it with. I found Patty and Ingrid at Stay in Your Lane. They were hosting this every other Wednesday, just talking about AI. I joined every single Wednesday. I was just eating it up and loving that with them. They got into AI training, coaching, and I was like, hey, if I can help in any way. And they're like, how much would you like to help? They offered to have me come on as their fractional director of AI. So I've been with Stay in Your Lane a little over 2 years now, which is crazy to think about. I left Northeast Color. I recently just got done a stint at some contract work for the Rundown AI, doing strategic partnership work for them, which is absolutely insane. And as of just recently, I am officially the chief AI officer at Stay in Your Lane. So really helping them grow, expand, and ultimately I'm super excited to be back in the franchising space full time. So thank you for having me here, Doug. I think that button's from start to finish.
I think it does, and I think it spreads across a little bit of that middle area. I loved hearing your story and how you got into it. Honestly, I actually owe my affinity for AI to credit to Patty and to Ingrid. And it's because I went to a conference where they were leading a session and I immediately saw the capabilities and the possibilities with AI. And I was just blown away with how simple they explained it to me. And in a way that I just dove in, basically cannonballed into the AI world, I feel, and started studying content creation tools that were leveraging AI so that I could give some of that information back to our clients. Props to Stay in Your Lane. Props to Ingrid and Patty. I'm really excited that you're back in franchising full time. Love seeing it at the show. I love picking your brain on AI. You actually just came to my roundtable at IFA, and I think we had a really great session because of all of this industry expertise you had and understanding of all things AI. So thanks for coming to that roundtable, by the way.
Absolutely not a problem at all. It's hard to pull me away from anything AI related anytime I can get it.
Nick, when did AI go from being interesting to this changes everything for you?
I would say it was pretty quick for me to see the forest through the trees. Once I get my hands on it, once I started using it, And I will just say, whatever the luck is that out there, I'm only mildly lucky, right? Like I've never won the lottery, but small lucky pieces. I got very early access to ChatGPT 4 when it first came out, to Code Interpreter when it first came out, like months ahead of other people. So I felt the powers to be pushed me a little bit in that direction because I had very early access to some cool things. So much sooner than other people being able to run spreadsheets through and see what it was doing and have it solve Excel problems for me and have it solve real life problems. And I think my mild ADHD, if you haven't picked up on it already, undiagnosed elder millennial, that squirrel brain connecting of dots, I found like AI really resonated with me because it was fast. I could bounce this
Yes.
idea, that idea, and it just really seemed to make sense to me. And I've honestly tried to stay ahead of the curve as much as possible because I don't feel like this is other technological stuff that has come out in the past that kind of comes and fades. This is not going anywhere. It's not hype. So I'm just trying to stay out in front of this wave.
Yeah, I get it. I'm pretty excited about it as well. And I eat this stuff up. And you are so right. It's not going away. It's interesting to be a part of this right now because I feel like I wasn't really heavily into what I felt was the true .com era, right? Like I was a little late to the game there in that, and I missed part of that. But with the AI world, I think it's taking over a lot like the .com era did. I think you've got to think about incorporating AI tools into your business. I think it's something that we are constantly studying, figuring out what's the best content creation tool, authoring tool, video creation tool. And so I love hearing your enthusiasm for it. And it sounds like you were using it really early on before a lot of people were. When you talk about running spreadsheets through it and those kind of things, did you start off like everybody else, like very basic questions and then expand and test its limits?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's about finding a good foundation of whether it's influencers or people that you trust or newsletters to follow, things along those lines, right? I had to sift through that information and figure out who those people were for me, right? Rachel Woods, Justin Feinberg were phenomenal. Finding Connor Grennan, he's a fantastic follow. Ethan Malik is absolutely one of my favorites and really helps explain things in such a phenomenal way. And I always lean on his example of he calls the frontier of AI has a jagged edge. It means it's not a smooth surface. You can't get to the outer ring of the circle and those outer concepts. You can be doing something perfectly, and then you move a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left, and it doesn't work at all. It's really trying to figure out where those jagged marks are and something that you think might work and it doesn't. And but love, it's like a big puzzle to me and solving that puzzle and finding better ways. So I think it really scratches that itch for me about I know I should be able to do this. How can I find the right way to really get the output that I want that then is going to save me an obscene amount of time that I just cannot wait to get off my plate and make my life a lot easier so I can focus on bigger picture things that actually stimulate my brain.
Yeah. What a wonderful answer. And I love hearing how much, time you get back into your life. I was working on a project the other day, just a resource tool.
Yep.
We're creating a resource for our clients. And I basically had to just do a summary of all of these different tools. And I used ChatGPT to just summarize these websites by asking ChatGPT to review these websites and give me a 100 word or less succinct summary of this. And I was blown away. We used to hear, at least early on in the days, it's 80% of the way there, or think of it like an intern and that kind of thing. It's well over 80% nowadays on some tasks, at least. I barely changed anything as far as the summary documents because it did way better than I could have in a fraction of the amount. This would have taken me all day. I was done in an hour, blown away. Efficiencies, that's the key here, right?
Yep. And I think a lot of people have jumped into the waters at different pointed times and either not been impressed or didn't really have the time, didn't have that person to show them the ropes and help through that. I know you mentioned stay in your lane and how easy they make it. It's what drew me to them, just their approachable nature, the way they teach the concept. And I feel like a lot of companies, and I know we're going to get into this later in sort of those 4 steps, but I really believe in the EAT model, right? It's education, application, transformation, right? And I think a lot of people want to go right to the tool and go right, let me solve this problem and buy the screwdriver or buy the hammer. And I think what stay in your lane was in on very early, and we've done very well, and where we see the biggest success is it's really about teaching people about AI intuition and understanding and really getting them to connect the dots and not just see it as a screwdriver or a hammer or a saw, but to really start. It's like the Matrix, and all of a sudden you just see it for what it is. And when you have that moment inside your organization, I think that's when it really starts paying dividends across your org.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So, in this day and age, every conference we're at, it seems every third post, the word AI is being thrown around, right? But most franchise owners that I've talked to aren't necessarily looking for like futuristic tech and that kind of thing. They just want to solve business problems. So if we know that AI is everywhere, what should franchise brands actually care about when it comes to AI?
Um, there's a lot of different angles that you can take on that, right? There's a lot of low hanging fruit. There are phenomenal tools that are out there, right? Whether it's Easy Assist, which we saw at the IFA conference the past couple of years, right? There is voice automation for making and receiving phone calls. You have internal customer facing knowledge databases that can make it so much easier for employees to do these type of things and to not have to pull resources, answer questions, help you with online reviews. There are a million different ways that you can solve this. And there's a lot of low hanging fruit. The biggest thing that I would give advice to is creating a great policy and education that promotes people inside of your network, inside of your employees, in your group, in your franchise as a whole, to proactively share how they're using it. It pulls out these power users, and those are those individuals that are absolutely going to take your brand to the next level. And I think it's very undervalued at this point in time that the answers are in the room. And that would be my biggest piece of advice for long-term improvements versus short-term gain.
That's awesome. And it really makes me think a little bit about like, we're talking about this from the franchisor side of thing. Do you think like they should be also teaching their franchisees? Because at the end of the day, they're small business owners, limited resources. It's a grind, right? The first couple of years. Could AI help franchisees as well?
Yeah. And I think there's two different angles that I love talking about with franchisors, franchisees in that system. First of all, the franchisor structure, being lean, mean teams out there is actually a huge advantage in the world of AI, right? If you
Yeah.
can get your senior leadership team, your H2 level, all operating on this type of frequency, you can operate a 10-person org like it's a 100-person org, right? So I think they have a huge advantage in the franchising world at the structure of this to be able to influence change quickly from a corporate level. Where I highly recommend bringing in the franchisees is twofold. One, by being tech forward, it's going to help you promote to new franchisees to see that you are integrating these AI technologies. Outside of that, as much as I will do consulting for franchise brands that are out there, I always preach to them, there is someone in your network right now that is like Nick Pope, that is in love with this tech, that can see the power and all of it, and they are waiting for you to unleash them on your organization. And I say that because they're going to know the problems. They're going to know the choke points. They're going to know what's going to move the needle. You don't have to bring someone in and bring them up to speed and have them try to sell you stuff. If you've got someone internal that can do that, I'm telling you right now, whether you are encouraging them and reaping the rewards in your model, if they're taking their good ideas and they are going to take them elsewhere, they are going to take them and leverage this great idea. But if you create an environment that promotes them actively talking about that and being excited, and then you empower them to do more, that's the fastest way I would say that you can absolutely skyrocket your work.
100% agree. That's awesome. So if a franchisor or a franchisee is hearing this AI talk and they're feeling overwhelmed, where do you think they should start?
There's plenty of good free content out there. I think the problem with all of the free content is that it's so much, right? And ultimately, it's really about finding someone that can lead you through that and just allow you to speed up a little bit faster. I would, of course, encourage people to go and play with these tools and download ChatGPT or Anthropic's Claude and go and play. But if you're busy, if you don't have the time for that, I think really what I love about Stay in Your Lane, specifically in the franchising space, is we understand franchising, we understand ZORs and Zs and models and frame dev, and we can help teach you that baseline intuition while also being very practical in your space and helping you just sharpen that learning curve. Go out, use the free resources if you want to. If you want to save a little bit of time and energy, finding someone in your niche that understands what you're looking to do and can speed you up would definitely be my recommendation.
And my recommendation, even though you didn't ask for it, would be if you have a chance to sit down on a presentation that Stay in Your Lane is doing on AI, sit down, take some notes, but you're also not just going to be sitting there in a lecture. You're actually going to learn how to generate prompts. And that really gave me a taste of it. And then from there, I've just gone, I'm that guy that you're talking about now, right? I'm the guy in my company that I'm just waiting to be unleashed, right? And so, yeah, it starts from a little course like that.
We have individual courses that we run all the time. So check out our website, check out those calendars. We have corporate trainings, all sorts of stuff, private consultations. So whatever your flavor is, I'm sure we'll have something out there. We've got a free monthly call. Come and join us. Come and hang out.
This is a perfect transition. And this question is one that I'm pretty excited about because it's a great takeaway for me. But let's start it off with, AI is pretty advanced technology, but it doesn't necessarily have to be really complicated. So the problem is when business owners hear AI, they assume they need to hire a data scientist or completely overhaul their operations. But the reality is small strategic steps can make massive efficiency gains. So if you were to break that down, and I know you talk about this, you actually have a 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of plan for it. Can you step us through that real quick?
Yes, I'd be more than happy to. And I think there's so many different angles that you can take on this, but I think ultimately where I really look at this is first, I've already mentioned it. It's about education, right? It's about education and putting in a good policy, right? I could talk for hours endlessly about policies that I've seen that have worked, that have not worked. At a high level, don't be too restrictive. You don't want to limit your workforce to have a tool that could be very outdated and hold them back. It's mainly about safe usage, how to use it safely, how to think about it. It's very similar to computer safety, right? Don't click on the link that is from that random person, right? Like it's very similar vein. And then the biggest piece outside of safe usage is really around promoting people to talk about how they use it internally and putting in requirements saying, if you are using AI for anything internal, just say what you're using and what you did. I've seen organizations that have changed where the president of the company talks about a presentation and started it with the 4-paragraph prompt that he used to start the entire template. And showing that sort of insight and usage and that it's okay, as well as how you're thinking, to me, that is what the first step is to unlocking your organization. Get people to understand, demystify it, and then put a good policy in place that encourages safe, but promotes active sharing of your usage. So that's step one.
Okay.
Step two is what we talked about a little bit earlier about as you do this, as you put these policies out, as you encourage this safe but experimental usage, you're going to find your power users. You're going to find the people that rise to the top. You're going to find this guy that's doing amazing stuff on Excel. You're going to find the guy that's helping in inventory management. You're going to find the person that is absolutely crushing the HR game with the way that they're able to simplify their workflow. And all of these use cases are going to storm up, and you're going to then take and find those people and empower them. Some people will start a tiger team or a group or some sort of implementation team. And then you just train up and you encourage those people, right? So you find those power users inside your organization and you empower them. That's step two. Step three is where I think a lot of people try to start and where they run into problems, right? Step three, identify repetitive tasks and begin targeted implementation. So internal first, always recommend internal. You can make mistakes. No one's going to know about it. I wouldn't start with an external facing customer chatbot that promises someone the moon. And now you have some weird legal stuff or a weird social media incident on your hand. Start internal, find repetitive tasks. And this can be for individuals. It can be for entire workflows. We are just talking automation on the scale of, I have to send this report and I have to type these things up and I need to do X. And
right.
Those are the type of things when people say AI are taking people's jobs. I don't buy that for a second. Are there going to be some job disruptions? Yes. But I much more wholeheartedly believe it is augmented intelligence and the experience and the knowledge and the creativity that your employees have are only amplified when you allow them to do those things and remove the repetitive rote things from their schedules and agendas. And I think that's really where the superpower comes from. So again, you could hire someone from the outside, or if you found these people inside, they are going to know these repetitive problems and tasks, and they will be able to find those pain points for you so much faster. So you find those tasks, you begin targeted implementation to solve that. Step four is this is where you start to leverage the AI for customer experience, decision support, right? This gets a little bit more advanced. Now you've tried some different tools that are working for your targeted implementation on your repetitive tasks. Now you're starting to combine these things together. This is where I start getting into the concept of, if you're not on the train of recording all of your calls, I highly recommend you do it. Having access to that context from a decision-making and customer experience perspective is absolutely unbelievable. Also, just on a personal level, having one-on-ones with people, being present in meetings, not having to worry about scribbling down notes. Accountability. You want to hold your employees, your boss, your franchisees accountable from the actions and the things they're saying. You will never miss a detail from that. So outside of all these disparate tools, really you start leveraging AI and streaming it all together. This is where people start getting out of the realm of a couple tools here or there. I use ChatGPT for this, and we've got this program for this, and we use this for image generation. This is when you start to get into more enterprise level systems that are more robust. This is where the super buzzword of agents and automation really starts coming into play, is in that first step, because you start tying all these experiences together. You get this feedback instantly. You can take tangible action on it and help you make decisions a lot more educated and so much faster as well.
So when you're saying record the calls, are you saying with a AI note taker, or are you thinking along the lines of something else?
Yeah, an AI note taker, right? And I would say, depending on your taste for safety, right? Some companies are a little bit more open, some are a little bit more closed, but Microsoft or Google, they both have transcription services. I think there are better ones out there that have higher accuracy, but if you're not able, or whatever the case might be, there are some great in-house tools that you can have. And I would say, just in the concept of people that are on EOS, take those L10s and record those L10s every week and
Yep.
have a folder with that. And then have an AI model like Claude take a look at 8 weeks worth of your L10s, and you will have your brain melted on the insights and actionable takeaways. What did we miss? What are we not paying attention to? What's something that we should be talking about that we're not? Like, there's all these great questions that you can ask and pull out of that information that really just takes you to such a greater level of transparency and understanding.
Yeah, I love that answer because I've been using a note taker for about a year now, and it's made me a lot more efficient, a lot more accurate. And honestly, like, nothing slips through the cracks anymore. Like, if I said I was going to do something in the call, that's a to do item in my notes from my AI note taker. And you're right, I can go to meetings, I can have conversations like this. I was a note guy, right? I'd have a note taking app open and I'd be typing away. And I got to say, it's been extremely freeing to just be able to say, hey, you know what? I've got a note taker. I know it's recording the call, the video, the entire transcription. I'm going to get takeaway items and key points and to do items from this. And I just had to be present. And so I'm just so much more engaged than I think I ever could have been before. Yeah.
I agree 1,000%. I always, because I talk fast, if you haven't noticed, I literally throughout my career have had people say, oh my God, like the way you said that, like when I'm like, just picture the customer like this, or say this, or do this. And they're like, oh my God, can you say that again? That was great. I can't. I have a rewind, respit it out. First take, Nick, is fantastic. And transcription services have been phenomenal. And I'll just tease it out a little bit, Doug, right? We're talking about, you get the transcript, I go find that file, I load it into a system, I ask it certain questions, it gives me that analysis. We're well beyond that on the advanced use cases at this point in time, right? Like,
Yeah.
I have a meeting, the notes go in, it pings me on Slack, it gives me the takeaways, it gives me the action items, it adds it to a knowledge database. The next time I have a meeting with that person, an hour before, it reads my notes, it reads the transcriptions, it reads my CRM, it gives me all the relevant information that I need to have about that individual. It also has a personality style for that person. So make sure you include data or talking points or this. And I have all my meeting prep, all my notes, all my CRM, all of this is automatically automated for me. So when you think about doing something like that for your sales team, for your operations team, for your project management team, like, I'm telling you, it is the tip of the iceberg for individual productivity. Taking a training course that opens up your mind and frees you up an hour a day worth of this rote stuff is so low hanging fruit. And there's just so much more to go with it. And we're still early, like you said, in that .com, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're super early.
It'll be a contest to see which one of us talks faster. Yeah. That must have a little something to do with growing up in the same town. Probably we both have undiagnosed ADHD. Yeah.
I've
Yep.
heard of water. Some water.
But yeah, absolutely. If we're talking about low level investments and things like that, what's an easy AI tool or kind of workflow that franchise brands could implement today without breaking the bank?
Depending on where you're looking to go, right, and where you are in your stage, I would say the borderline baseline 3, if you don't have it, if you're not encouraging people to use it, get your employees either on ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, Perplexity, one of those big 3, LLMs, research, information, being able to just augment your life. Please and thank you, start there first. I would say some of my other favorite tools, to name drop a couple, Easy Assist is another fantastic one. They've been at the IFA a number of years. I love them. There's a lot of companies out there that say they're AI, but when you talk to them and they've got two people that do anything outside of engineering inside their entire organization that has 20 plus people, you've run into an actual AI company. So they've got phenomenal products. I know one that we've worked with several franchise brands on. It's called Cassidy AI. So
Yeah.
really good one once you leveled up a little bit to be able to start doing some of those automations, to have the knowledge base, to build the chatbots, that sort of second to third tier up from there.
Yeah.
Um, my other favorite one that I got to shout out as well is Vappy for voice functionality. Doug, I haven't sent it over to you yet, but afterwards I'll send you over for a train in your lane after you've taken a course with us. Instead of just doing a regular customer satisfaction survey, we literally have a phone number that you can call, and it's the top of the line voice agent, and it sounds phenomenal and it gives us great results. So I'm a big fan of Vappy for any sort of internal, inbound or outbound call volume. That's another one that's very cost effective.
That's why I love my job. I get to talk with experts like you and learn new things as we're just having a great conversation. Yeah, I'm writing that one down. I don't have to write it down, right? Because I have a note taker that's actually writing this down for me. I think one of the big challenges in franchising as a whole is the scalability challenge, right? As you start to grow, you can't be in all places at the same time. So, how does AI really help franchise brands scale faster and more efficiently?
I think it's exactly what you said. You can't be in all the places at the same time. You can't wear 12 hats, right? And you can try for a little while, right? But I think that's where AI allows you to take one hat off at a time and allows you to take those roles. So when we talk about scaling, the biggest problem with scaling is your people, right? How much you can actually have to pay humans, right? That is
Yeah.
the big capital expenditure that you're going to have is your resources for people. So I'm definitely not one of those folks that are like, if someone's talking to me and they're like, Nick, wow, so you're telling me instead of having 20 people, I could do this with 10 people. I will pump the brakes hard in that conversation. That is not my style. That is not my vibe. That is not what I'm here to do. I don't want to cut corners and reduce workforce. I want you to think about it as, okay, I've got 20 people that can now do the work at 80,
Yeah.
right? And not in a way that's aggressive to them where they're being overwhelmed with all of this, just in the fact of they can use their brains to go and automate and to make things better and to streamline things and make it easier. And then they can tackle the next challenge and they're mentally stimulated and engaged and happier. And so I think that's really the idea here is with these small franchise or teams that I've talked about, you can scale so fast because you just figure out the workflow, you get it into a good spot, and now you need 10% of the time you used to allot to that just to spot check it, to make sure it's still running well, to just check on it. So that to me is there's no better way to scale. You're not spending nearly as much money on AI tools as you would on actual humans.
Best answer I've heard in a long time. Everybody is fearful of the, oh, am I going to lose my job? And we actually have that question in a second. But like when we're thinking about new technology, there's always hesitation, right? People are worried about AI replacing their jobs. Others don't think they've got the time to figure out it's too complex. Some don't trust the technology. And so, if we're going to address these kind of fears head on, what are the biggest misconceptions about AI that you hear from the business owners?
Yeah, I think you hit the big ones, right? People are worried about it. They don't trust it, right? The big thing is that it makes up information, hallucinates, right? I always like to tackle that one. Hallucinations, right? Is it a bug or is it a feature? It is actually a feature of this, right? And there are tools out there that are more factually accurate. Perplexity, I mentioned earlier. If you're looking for facts, don't use ChatGPT. It does make things up. It does hallucinate. But the benefit is when you're trying to think outside of the box or use that L10 meeting example to think of something you haven't thought of before,
Yeah.
that same hallucination when you're talking about facts is creativity. It's thinking outside of the box. So again, it's that jagged edge that I mentioned. You have to understand where it's useful and where it's not and understand the capabilities. But as far as hallucinations go, it is drastically improving. Like we are getting these things radically better. And you have to look at the trend of where it's going to be, pass the ball where the guy's going to be.
Yeah.
And that's really where you need to be at this point in time is understand the limitations, but plan for where it's going. Job loss is definitely a big one as well. I know I've talked about that as a lot. I think, again, if you don't understand it, it's scarier. The more you understand something, the less fearful you are of something in that space. And I would say, just from my experience in networking groups and going to conferences and meeting all of these different people, like I'm telling you right now, there are plenty of Gen Alpha, Gen Z people that are neck deep in this, but there are a ton of 65-year-olds, 70-year-olds that are absolutely crushing this game right now because it is so complex and so big, but at the same time, it's so simple.
Yeah.
Because if you can communicate, if you can talk, you're going to be able to do really well in the world of generative AI. And once you realize it's a thought partner or someone you can talk to and you can just ramble and talk and do all these sort of things, once you just unleash that, it gets way easier. And then you now have the expertise of 20, 30, 40 years in an industry, and that knowledge doesn't disappear.
No.
And you can then take that to spot check, to ask better questions, to prompt better, to start in a much higher place than some 19-year-old that knows nothing about franchise marketing. They might be great with AI, but they don't have that industry knowledge. So that's why I don't think that person's going to take your job unless you're just not using AI. If you are using it, the world is your oyster. You just got to know what makes you unique, where your expertise is, and it just amplifies that to the nth degree.
AI is not going to take people's jobs. However, people who know how to use AI may take people's jobs.
Yes. I also want to caveat, I don't want to be unrealistic. Like, there are jobs that are probably going to be taken. Translators, that's going to be a tough job,
Yeah.
right? Like, stenographers, probably going to disappear, right? There absolutely will be disruption in a lot of space, but I just don't think it's going to be as crazy. I don't think it's going to be as widespread. And again, the same time any general purpose technology comes through, there are always different jobs that are created that you never would have thought about before.
Yeah.
That creativity side, right? Think about how many painters hated when cameras first came out, right? These photographers, it's not art. There's no talent. You're just clicking a button.
Yeah.
And that's photographers, right? And they're like, oh my God, look at this crazy photography with all these lenses and things. And like, now AI is ruining photographers. No, man, there's still going to be value in photography. And there's going to be insanely cool artistic things that we can do with AI that people's brains haven't even thought about. In the same vein that as these techs come in and replace others, it's following that same structure. The difference is this is very fast. So I do expect it to get a little bumpy if I'm being realistic. But as an optimist, I think if you understand it, if you try to make an effort and you start thinking about it, I think you're going to be just fine.
And I loved your previous answer too, when we were talking about if there's a company that today has 20 people, could you reduce your workforce down to 10? No. You teach all 20 people how to leverage AI and you're going to get the output of 60, 80 people, right? And so what's going to be more valuable in the end, right? If you're actually completing the work of 80 people with 20 versus having 10 people, a no-brainer.
Yeah, I have 10 people that are doing the work of 20. And I got rid of 10 people. So now, great, I'm ahead.
Stop being short-sighted.
Yeah, bigger picture, more growth. I still think we're in the space where not only can you stay ahead of the wave and stay in that curve, I still think we're in the area of opportunity where if you really nail this and you get an entire workforce understanding and motivated, you can go take people's lunch. We're still in that early phase of all of this as well. For those of you that aren't worried about your brand or your business and you feel safe and secure, just know if you're not actively pursuing this and you are more of that aggressive entrepreneurial mindset, man, is absolutely a way where you can go out and be aggressive in the space too.
Love it. So Nick, we've talked about the now. We know AI is going nowhere, but it's going to explode or continue to, and it's going to be integrated into all facets, I feel like, of business. So if we're going to fast forward, we've got a crystal ball. It's 5 years in the future. What does AI look like in the franchise space in particular?
5 years is a tough thing for me, right? I think realistically in 5 years, Doug, there could be a lot of robots everywhere and we could all either be subordinate or just living our best lives while everything is automated for us. I think we've got a pretty big needle to thread as a society in that amount of time. And as crazy as that is, I ultimately think in the franchise space, we are just going to see much tighter, smaller teams being able to handle a lot of these things, right? Think ultimately you have the capacity, specifically in the franchise industry. I think about individual entrepreneurial mindset. Do I want to work for some company and be a cog in the machine of a 10,000 person company? Do I even want that anymore? Do I want to live that corporate life? I feel like franchising already has the secret sauce of getting those individuals to become entrepreneurs and to buy a business model and to do those type of things. And I think where AI is going to help is franchising and AI are similar. And when you get into automation, when you get into repeatability, into scalability, there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
There's a lot of systems. There's a lot of things. And when you look at an SMB, they're sloppy. They're all over the place, right? I worked dealing with SMB. You ask them what a business plan is or what their P&Ls are, like maybe 1 out of 20 can give you a concrete answer, right?
Yeah.
Versus in franchising, it's so systematic and it's so organized. At least it can be, right? I'm sure we
Right.
know ones where it doesn't go there, but in theory, I think this is really going to be something where you can package this as someone, here's your model, here's your things, here's what you need to do. You just need to be the dragon rider for this beast of this model and all of the marketing, all of the everything. Like, I really think if franchising truly adopts this and franchises really lean into this, I think the overlaps are stark. And I think it is absolutely going to be bananas for all of these individuals where you don't need to go grind away. You don't need to do this. You can buy this model and all you need to do is set up shop in your little town and we've got all this stuff for you and it handles all of these things. And that's your escape from that. And I think the franchise model, like I said, hit or miss. There's a lot of stuff that could go one direction or another, but I think they're perfectly positioned to really thread this needle.
Yeah, I think it's going to be massively beneficial to franchisees, right? Just the systems are going to be better. They're going to be more efficient. They're going to be able to run their unit more efficiently than ever before. So that was an awesome answer. When we're thinking about, let's say, trends, and I know that you are watching these things pretty closely, what should franchisors have on their radar?
There's a lot, right? And this is where like I try to figure out like, do I talk overall, just being cognizant of it? You will lose employees if you are not leaning into this technology. I deeply believe that if you are not investing in this training for your employees, you're doing them a disservice for the rest of their careers, right? So that is a trend. Employee loss, talent loss. If you're not leaning into this technology, you need to do that bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
I think outside of that, it really comes down to the automation. We are getting to a much stronger spot. And we've always had automations. We've always had Zapier things. We've always had these type of workflows. But really this next layer is going to be intelligent agent functionality where they're going to be communicating with each other, working with each other. You're going to have a virtual CMO working with your CFO, working with it is going to start stacking pretty quickly here. So I would say what should they have on their radar is really thinking about how can I find an orchestration platform that really ties in a lot of these disparate tools and allows me to manage them from a single spot or as few spots as possible. I really think that's that next framework that people really need to be thinking about is what is my overall orchestration layer to allow me to all of these small use cases, things that I'm solving, all of these ways where I'm interjecting these small wins. Start thinking about what that next level of overall orchestration is and how you can simplify that.
Perfect. I have a fun use case I wanted to mention. It was somebody I spoke to at IFA. And what it does is I think it drives home this point of the fact that younger generations are going to grow up with this being like a tool of theirs, right? Like I'm in my 50s, right? And so I'm pretty good at searching things on the internet, right? But I didn't grow up with it. It wasn't in the palm of my hand, right? From the time I was born. Younger generations are. And this woman talked to us at IFA and she said, you know how we use AI? It's fun. She goes and when she takes her kids up to bed at night, the kids and her will open up ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever it is, Copilot,
Yep.
and they're just talking to it and they're basically creating prompts to create a new bedtime story every night. And so these kids who are 6 and 8, right, are
Yep.
actually learning how to create prompts at this really young age. And I think this is going to be, it just shows you like the power in like these younger generations and what they're going to be able to do because it's going to be so natural for them to be able to get things and leverage AI to create tasks that took us a really long time. I don't know anything else other than this. I want to tell you that story. It's just a fun one to think about creating a new fantasy novel every night, Nick, where where someone slays a dragon and they have magical powers and the whatever happens in the end. And I think that's a fun, really non-business use for it.
I love that as a non-business use case. I know Patty had built a GPT for her daughter to do exactly that, right? So they just go in now and they basically say, I want a story about this type of animal and this type of setup, something along those lines. Patty will also sneak in if her kid is struggling with something. So say the bullying at school, or they didn't win at their soccer game, or they're really struggling because so-and-so got this, or a cat died. Like you can interject those sort of things to help that story also help them with that, so yes, to the nth degree on those sort of personal use cases, I think that's phenomenal. I also love, as nice as a GPT is to automate that, the fact that they're actively prompting, I think is an important part of that. And I would agree, right? Like when my daughter, when I first got her ChatGPT so she could go and mess around with it, she picked it up faster than any adult I trained because she doesn't have those, how do I Google stuff? Locked into your brain. What are the questions I should ask? What are the things? How should I state the stuff? I just basically don't just talk to it. Just talk to it like you would normally, right? And so she very quickly picked up on that doesn't make sense, or I don't like the way you did that. It would tell it and it would fix it. And like I was like, I can't tell you how many weeks it takes most people to get to that comfort level. But yeah, man. And I think very realistically, very soon, you're going to have wearables. The memory on these things is going to be increased. It's going to know everything on your iPhone. You're going to have that access to it. And you're going to have this personal assistant with you for your entire life that's going to know everything about you. And again, that's where my optimism, 51% says this is going to be great. 49% would go really bad. Or do hold out hope that that'll be a net positive.
Yes, we must use these things for good, not for evil.
It's the story of our entire civilization, right? And the only peg I can hang out on is we are still here. We are still having this conversation. So somehow humanity, there's been more good than evil. And I think that's going to continue. But again, it is going to get real weird, Doug. I'm not going to lie with this AI stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think we've already covered our last official question. However, I wanted to just ask you, this is more just kind of a, hey, Concord, New Hampshire is a pretty cool town. And I don't think many people get up there to visit the state capital there. What's one place someone should visit if they're going to Concord, New Hampshire for the first time?
Ooh, going to Concord, New Hampshire for the first time. I would say just a high level overview. The new Concord Hotel that's right downtown. Main Street's been revitalized. There's tons of great stores, tons of great restaurants. You're only talking a couple blocks either way, just quintessential New England. I definitely would have to give a shout out. It's right off the highway a little bit. There's two places right next door to each other. There's a brewery called Litherman's Limited. Absolutely fantastic brewery. Next door to them is 603 Barbecue. These guys are pit masters. They take barbecue styles from all over the country. They've been getting absolutely rave reviews. Some of the best barbecue I've ever had in my life. And that's weird saying out of New Hampshire. So I would say outside, checking out the nice little quintessential downtown, take a pop over there, get some great craft beer and some great barbecue.
You know what I love about this is that's not even the only great place to get a beer and barbecue at the same time, right? Like you have another place in the South End. It's just amazing that these places didn't exist when we were kids, right? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I wish I had 3 craft breweries in walking distance from my old hometown.
I had Tijuana's and that was it. So I don't even know if it's called that anymore. It's not, is it?
Who knows, man? It was, Concord has grown up quite a bit. It's very nice. I'm pleased.
Nick, thank you so much for coming on. This was super beneficial to me, to our listeners. I would obviously love to continue this conversation, and I'm sure we will. We'll definitely have you back on again. Good luck in the future. Let's stay in touch. So this has been an awesome conversation with Nick Pope about making AI simple and actionable for franchise brands. If you want to keep up with Nick, check him out on LinkedIn. Check out his upcoming training options with Train in Your Lane. And if you found this episode valuable, please subscribe to The Training Effect. Leave us a review. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Cheers.